Welcome, Grace Bible Church family. It's good to be back. The Lord was with us in Florida. We enjoyed our time blessing each other and Chrissa and walking and reading our Bibles and letting God speak to us afresh. It was a refreshing time. This time of having no church has been hard for Pastor Kyle, but he's done a great job. Now they're moving into reopening the church, and we thought that would be easier, but it's not. And a lot of work has gone into that, and he's going to explain to you right now how we're going to reopen the church, and we're all excited about that very, very much. But we must do it with healthy adventures of wisdom and opening up Grace Bible Church. Love all the people. Lord be with you. It's good to be back.
Well, Grace Bible Church, it is time to have a conversation that we're obviously all excited about, and we all have questions. And that is obviously the issue of how do we reopen Grace Bible Church after 6-7 weeks of not having normal services. And we want to make sure that we approach this discussion with caution. We've done so here as the leadership of Grace Bible Church. I want to give you 3 primary reasons we are talking about this cautiously. First of all, as we think about caution, we need to make sure that primarily our flock is protected. And remember that there are people in our congregation that this would be incredibly detrimental to, possibly even lethal to, if they were to contract the virus. And so we need to make sure that we're very cautious in protecting our congregation from the virus. Secondly, I think if we look at the nature of Governor Holcomb's tone, as he even allowed the opportunity for churches to gather, it was by no means a tone that we should jump back into normal worship services. He permitted worship services, but that was still with the understanding that we're going to limit gatherings and we're going to be careful with how we do things. Now, it was made clear to us that churches are in a sense exempt from the 25 gathering limit. That being said, he allowed that with extreme caution, and essentially he put it in the lap of the churches and the individual churches to make those decisions carefully. And so I don't think that we should understand the opportunity to reopen the services as just a green light to get right back to normal. He allowed for churches to reopen and for worship services to continue with extreme caution. And if you've looked at it yourself, you can see that there are an immense amount of guidelines and things that he's recommending that we observe. And so I don't think we should misunderstand his heart in the opportunity to reopen our services. And thirdly, as we've been saying all along, we need to make sure that we consider our testimony in the community. If we just carelessly get right back to things, if someone potentially in our church gets sick, or something happens here in the congregation, we go back to our communities and we infect a neighbor, then the testimony of our church is going to be affected. And remember that people don't think necessarily about Christ just on the basis of you as an individual Christian, but they think about Christ collectively, even in more so as they think about the church. And so if we lead in a spirit of caution and care as a congregation, then there's no fault that can be put against us as Grace Bible Church. And so I think we have to be extremely careful maintaining our light in the community and how we respond to reopening our services. And so now to get into the details. We're going to give you a Sunday by Sunday snapshot, and then I'm going to give you some general information. This coming Sunday essentially will continue as normal. And when I say as normal, I mean our normal that has taken place over the last few weeks. Our morning service will be online, as you've experienced again over the last few weeks. And there will be no PM service, and there wouldn't ordinarily be a PM service here at Grace Bible Church, even if we were meeting physically, because it's Mother's Day, and we don't typically have an evening service on Mother's Day. And so, again, May 10th, the service will be in the morning and online, and no PM service. Wednesday will be streamed. I'll mention again later, but all Wednesdays throughout the month of May are going to be streamed online. And again, keeping with Governor Holcomb's suggestion, I believe it was his very first suggestion after saying that technically worship services are allowed, he did encourage that churches should continue to meet online. The weeks of May 17th and 24th, the morning service will be held online, so you will log in as you have typically and check out our typical Grace Bible Church channels, and you'll watch a pre-recorded service online. We will, however, be offering a PM service. And we chose PM for multiple reasons, and the primary reason that we chose the PM service is it tends to be a more concentrated crowd anyway, and so we don't anticipate that people are just going to flock to a PM service. Now that would be great, but I think part of us, I know, speaking for myself, one of the great anticipations throughout all this is being able to gather normally on a Sunday morning and a wonderful reunion on a Sunday morning. And so PM allows us to be a little more concentrated with those who attend. We also don't have our other programmatic ministries that take place on a Sunday PM service. So we don't have to deal with the children's ministry and protecting our children, our children's workers, and there's no concern on our youth group and our youth staff because we don't have our children's and youth ministries on Sunday evening. Now, keep in mind, when I say there will be a Sunday PM service, it will not be a normal Grace Bible Church service. And I think that we need to resign ourselves to that. Pews will be roped off to ensure safe proximity. We're going to have marks in the seats to make sure that we're each at a safe distance. What we're actually going to be doing is we're going to provide sanitizing material for your family when you walk in, and we're going to ask that you sanitize the place in which you sit. So there'll be sanitizing wipes, and we're going to ask that you wipe down the pew where you sat. And this is not only to maintain sanitization, but it's actually to help the people here at our church who are responsible for keeping the church clean. If we put all of our cleaning or sanitizing on our custodian, then it's a little bit of an unfair amount of work. And so we're going to ask you as a family to be responsible for your own sanitizing when you enter the building. You'll be provided those materials, and we ask that you wipe down where you sat before you leave. And so keep these things in mind as you return on Sunday PM services. We'll also be providing masks. The masks will be available to you if you choose to wear one. We're not requiring that you wear one, but you have that opportunity available to you. Masks will be made available to the congregation. So that is both for May 17th and for the 24th. We are working towards a May 31st Sunday morning service. Now, again, when I say this, please keep in mind that this will not be a normal Sunday morning service. We're still going to be using some of the guidelines that I just mentioned, tagged spots in the pews. You won't be able to just come in and get your normal place. We're not gonna come in and hug one another. We're not gonna come in and shake hands. We're gonna keep our distance. We're not going to be passing offering plates throughout the month. We're going to continue to give online and mail in your tithe as you have so faithfully been doing. But we're working towards a tentative Sunday morning service on the 31st. Please understand that this is not a promise. And one of the reasons this is not a promise is because the timeline has changed on a governmental level multiple times. One of the understandings in Governor Holcomb's suggestion or new statement rather is this is going to happen. The phases are going to stay on track if the numbers stay down. If the numbers don't stay down, we're going to have to reevaluate. And so we're working towards a safe and cautious service on the 31st. And so now some general information to think about just over the next few weeks to hopefully answer a few questions. We are going to be communicating on a 2-week basis, and that plays into one of the things I was just saying, and that's that the timeline on a governmental level has been somewhat unpredictable. we're going to be careful not to just say what we're doing. And I know I've given you this time direction for the next 3 weeks, but when we come to the 24th, it may not be possible to have a service on the 31st. And so we're going to be communicating with you hopefully on a 2-week basis as more information comes out. We'll put out other videos like this, and I will be sending out other statements just to clarify what exactly we are doing. We understand that the phases on a state level may change and the timetables may change, and obviously that will affect how we do things here at church. All Wednesdays through May will be live streamed. Though we are having PM services, or we hope to be having PM services on the 17th and the 24th, that doesn't mean we're also having one on Wednesday. I should say, in general, that every service that we have here at Grace Bible Church is going to be live streamed. So even the PM that you might be missing, they're going to be live streamed as well. There have been some people that have told me, doesn't matter if you open up the last week in May, we're not going to be there until June because it's really not good for us. And I understand that, and your church understands that, and so there's not going to be any judgment. You'll still have the opportunity to watch online. Since the restricted number has been raised to 25, which we're thanking the Lord for, if you would like to invite someone to your home to watch with you, or if you know of someone in the congregation who doesn't have the technological capability to watch the services, we encourage you to be a blessing to them. And if you'd like to invite them, you're of course able to do that. But even with that, we ask that you be extremely careful. If you have the slightest sniffle or high fever, obviously or low fever, obviously make sure people aren't in your home. And so this is obviously an opportunity that you have. You can show hospitality this way, and you can gather around the teaching this way. But please take great care, even if you invite people to your home to watch the services. A few things I want to note that we are thankful for as a congregation. I am personally, and I know you are thankful for the support of our people. We as a congregation have lifted up one another in prayer. We've loved one another. We've encouraged one another. And so I know personally I would not have wanted to go through this without the congregation that God has allowed me to serve. And secondly, I want to thank the Lord with you for the surety of His promises. I want to share 2 brief promises with you. Nothing will prevail against the church. Christ promises this in Matthew chapter 16. Nothing will stop the church. The gates of hell, death, they won't stop the church. Coronavirus is not going to stop the church. We will be back together. The Lord knows when we'll be back together, and He knows when we'll be back together normally. The church has not stopped, nor will it stop. The word has not stopped, nor will it stop. The message of this church, the heart of this church, it continues to go forth strong and to beat strong. The church will not be stopped, and I'm thankful for that promise. And secondly, I'm thankful for the promise that He will restore us. We have this promise given to us in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 10. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of grace, who has called you to His eternal glory, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. So the God of grace, and we've talked a great deal about grace lately, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself. So the God who has called you to the glory that is in Christ will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And this is something that He's doing. These are things that He's doing in all of us. And if we think about that word restore, the time is coming when our gathering will be restored completely. We'll be together again. And until that day, let's take hope and strength and comfort in the God who has called us to eternal glory in Christ and will restore us, will confirm us, will strengthen us, and will establish us. This is what He's doing in Grace Bible Church, and this is what we can be assured He will continue to do, both until the time that we can't meet, both through the time that we can't meet, and until the time that we can. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can, of course, email or call. check in with the office, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.